Hey, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission is to share business ideas, practices, and strategies while we enjoy our cup of coffee. Today, we're going to do a little bit of a throwback episode for you. We want to reshare an episode that has been pretty popular on our YouTube channels. It is with Jonathan Jenkins, and he's talking about the role of an HOA management company. We are in the time frame right now where it's getting close to summer and amenities are going to start opening up, and your HOA community, your homeowners association may be understanding or learning the roles of the HOA board, the HOA management company, and how that all works together. We think that it was a very valuable conversation with lots of good insights, and so we want to reshare it with you this week on the podcast. So grab a cup of coffee and get ready for this conversation with Jonathan Jenkins.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
Jonathan, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah,
That's
pretty
hard.
good. Huh?
Cut. Okay. All right.
You can't be horrible, or you can't be okay?
Nervous, Chad.
Nervous?
Yeah.
Why are you nervous? It's just two guys sitting here having a conversation with two microphones and three cameras.
Yeah, just,
bunch of
nothing to be
lights.
nervous about. Just the spotlight. No, first time ever doing this, so
Yeah.
I'm excited, but just anxious.
I think you'll be a natural.
I hope.
I saw you were here a couple of months ago, I guess it was now. We were recording a video for an education event. I mean, you were just excellent actor.
Well, that was easier because we had, different role players, so it didn't feel like the spotlight was all on one individual.
Sure.
But I had a lot of fun doing that. That was certainly a different experience from, things that maybe I did in school, like when I was younger, we did like little plays. But the older you get, the more you start to think about, I don't know, just different things, appearance, how you sound, what you're doing. But yeah, that was a little bit less nerve-wracking. Still nerve-wracking in a way, but just we got through it.
Yeah,
so.
it was great, and I loved your shirt that you wore. Which it was funny after I saw that shirt because I'd never seen that before. I guess it's kind of a whole thing in the HOA industry. And then I've seen it multiple times since then, and I was like, "That's hilarious." So you were wearing a shirt. I guess tell us what you were wearing on your shirt.
Yeah, so a common phrase nowadays, to reference somebody that's like somebody that always wants to talk to the manager is called what we call a Karen. And so the shirt, I found like a meme or something online, and it said a homeowners, what was it? A homeowners association is nothing but a bunch of Karens, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so just because, HOAs sometimes get that rep of like, people complaining about something. And that's, that's not the point of it, or that's not the focus of it. But, it was just something funny because, some of my board members made reference to somebody as their name doesn't even have to be Karen. It's just that one person that just has to ruin things, so to speak. So, and the role that I was playing, was somebody that was, I guess, would call out the Karens, so to speak.
Frustrated with the homeowners association, or frustrated with the people in the community.
Correct. Yep.
We're going to talk about that a little bit as far as kind of the context of HOAs, homeowners associations, condo associations, whatever, a group of. What is a good definition for homeowners associations? Because I think that, at least for me, it's just kind of an assumed knowledge base or a known because I've dealt with it for so long. What is a good, concise, clear definition of it?
An HOA, homeowners association, is a governed body of people, whether it be a community of condos of 36 units or 600 single-family homes. And so the sole purpose of having an HOA is to, just create a harmonious type feeling, and not necessarily everything, all the same, because, they all have their own individual looks, styles, people.
Yeah.
But it's really just a group of individuals that have set expectations, rather. And that's, there's a lot of pros to that.
Yep.
So that's how I would explain it. Just a governed body, meaning when I say governed, there's, like the Bible, the Bible gives you the directive of how to be in life, so to speak.
Sure.
We have those in HOAs, and, how to cut your grass, so on and so forth. So that in a nutshell, that's kind of what, an HOA would be.
That's a great definition.
Fight back against the spread of germs with specialty designed door hardware. From arm hooks and crash bars to Wave to Open. At Loc-Doc Security, we have the right fit for any situation. Arm hooks can be retrofitted to doors with existing pull handles. Adding crash bars can reduce even more touch points while retaining ease of exit. And for those looking to remove touch points altogether, we offer Wave to Open solutions enabling you to command the door from afar. Reduce touch points and live healthier with Loc-Doc Security.
We're going to kind of jump into the conversation. I want to frame it a little bit around homeowners associations, management companies, but I want to give some practical applications. So I've posed you with two different questions, both with threes. 3 things that HOAs should look for in a management company. So if I'm an HOA board, what should I look for in a management company? And then also 3 things community managers need to focus on. We'll talk a little bit about both of those things, but I just wanted to kind of tee up. That's kind of the direction we're going to head. Also as a reminder for me in case I start deviating off field.
Yeah.
But HOA management, I have a wonderful appreciation for. Of the years that I've been in my roles, I've attended, I don't even know how many HOA board meetings for proposals. It's a type of a customer that we deal with.
Right.
And seeing it from kind of both sides, from a vendor, from an HOA board member, and from a management company standpoint, you've got a lot of dynamics. You've got a lot of people that are, as you said earlier, trying to govern a set of expectations. We want our community to look this way. We want to uphold these standards. And then people that are fighting against that, and the conflict of personalities, and managing budgets and doing all that stuff, and then dealing with vendors and managing expectations there. It is a complex daily task, I'm sure.
Right.
So I have a fond appreciation for it. I think you're one of the first HOA managers that we've ever had on the podcast. So from a kind of having a perspective, and that's the reason I wanted to go this way, because I'm sure we could sit here and talk about funny stories with board meetings and all these types of situations, and where that would be humorous. I don't know that that's the practical application side, right? It's okay, how can we be better at it? And the first step is kind of what we were talking about earlier. What is an HOA, and why does it need to exist? And so let's kind of start there, because you talked a little bit about what a definition of why would a community, besides the defined set of expectations, I guess practical example of that, where you have an area that doesn't have any type of governing body versus somewhere that does, and what would be the benefit of that? Like, why would I want to join a community that has a HOA?
Yeah, with homeowners associations, like you said, we could sit here and tell funny stories or even horror stories, but that's not the point of what it's designed to be. You most certainly you could find you a house or somewhere outside of an HOA and not have those rules. Most people, when they look into an HOA, they see consistency for the most part. They see amenities. That's one of the key factors that a lot of people, especially in Charlotte, with how Charlotte's booming, every neighborhood, almost, I wouldn't say every neighborhood, but majority of the neighborhoods around here have those types of amenities, like a pool, a clubhouse, tennis courts, and basketball courts. And so, especially for younger people that are moving to the city of Charlotte to grow their family, that's an incentive for them. And they see that as an opportunity, depending on the home value, that does help them they see it as a potential for, their home value as far as the price increase, because, what we're seeing nowadays, I have a board member, townhome community in Fort Mill. Sure. Fort Mill's booming. Yeah. And when she bought her townhouse, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, she paid like $116 for it. Yeah. 3-bedroom townhouse like that, $116 15 years ago is now going for $240, $250. Yeah. And it's insane. And that is a value of moving into one, because your neighbors and your surrounding community is really helping you out, whether you do anything to the inside of your house or not.
Yeah.
They're selling, my saying is they're selling like hotcakes out there because of everybody wants in. It's a great looking community. The common areas are maintained. It's a townhome community. So, pretty much everything is covered under the association outside of, walls in.
Yep.
But I mean, that's, that's an incentive for anybody. Any starting family that has a family of, 4, buy the house now. I mean, good Lord, who knows what it'll be like if things continue the way they're going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So and being able to have the consistency and then those amenities that are kind of shared. So I don't have to invest in a pool in my backyard. I can, have one that the whole community shares and pay a portion of it versus having to pay for the whole thing.
Correct. Yeah, because that's a big expense. I mean, that's a huge plus. So, and just the convenience of it. Everything's there. I have a property that has clubhouse, pool, and tennis courts. I mean, it's where it's located in Ballantyne, a lot of the area is very tennis friendly. There's a lot of tennis players. So, a lot of people that move in, that's why they move in. They have 4 courts there for their use.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, the word uniformity always jumps out. I don't really like that because that just makes it seem very bland. I like saying consistency and just, throwing that out there that, harmonious. That's one of my favorite words to say. Just, no, yeah, I mean,
So I think that it's you just said something that it has intrigued me. I've never really thought about it that way, but different communities kind of have their own personality. Tennis, basketball, maybe a lot of pool. There's a lot of neighborhoods around here that have these amazing pool facilities, like multiple pools and kiddie pools and all these water features and all kinds of swim teams, right? And so you find a community that's focused on that, and now you've got a bunch of like-minded people, and it works really well.
Yeah, and that's what creates the harmony. Everybody has one common interest, and so, and that I think that's the fun about living in a neighborhood, especially if you are a younger family. They're not only are they going to school with their friends, but they're back at home they have their friends there, and so and it goes back to common interest.
Yeah. So let's jump into this, and because there's a couple other things that we can address here, but I want to at least get to the first three things that a HOA should look for in a management company. So first of all, why if I have a community and it has an established board. The homeowners association, there's an established board, however many people there, 5 or 6, 7, however many people. Why do I need a management company? Why can't we just do it ourselves?
First word that sticks out to mind is liability. We have there are several HOAs around the area. I'll just say the Charlotte metro area that are self-managed, and I think they're very brave for doing that. If you have the time to invest in it, God bless you.
Yeah.
But you have those. But the problem is the liability that you're putting on yourself as a volunteer. That's the thing. You're ran by the board of directors, but technically, it's a volunteer position. You're not to be paid for that. Yeah. Why is it a liability? Because one, you're collecting funds from homeowners, whether those funds be from $120 a month to or $1,000 a year, what have you. So now you're handling, all of those finances, and then your operating accounts, your reserve accounts. How are you allocating those funds? Are you spending them wisely?
And all it takes is a group of homeowners to come in and say, "Hey, what have you done with all of our money? Like, we don't see any improvements." Yep. And then you got this kind of just big chaos.
And what have you done to show the expenses? Have you kept up with the accounting properly? Yeah. So that's why there are pros to having a management company. You have a team driven that knows accounting, knows maintenance, knows how to allocate those funds. Not only that, but just lead the board in the direction and take that liability off of them. Responsibility. Management companies, we are held to standards of, leading our boards in the right direction to assist the community. Not even just the boards, but the homeowners. We serve them all. Taking all of that responsibility off the board and really just making them the sole decision makers really relieves that stress from them. Sure. Put that on your management company. And then the third thing is why should you do that or move to a management company? Transparency.
Yeah.
That is a huge thing that I like to preach about. That's all what I always want to be like with my boards is transparent. Let's, tell them everything they need to know, give them the hard or, I guess the hard answers, whether they want to know them or not. But, that's my goal. That's my job, is to lead them in the right direction and just be as transparent as possible through everything, the finances, showing them monthly statements of things. And homeowners like that as well, because then now they can see, what is being done monthly, providing the meeting minutes every month, they can see what the board's doing. And we've seen these are very common mistakes that self-managed boards can make because they're not producing the documents or the minutes, the financials. And then you're looking at a lawsuit very, very quickly. And just for your protection, that's why management companies are so beneficial to communities. And the funny part of it is, and I always tell people, I guess you can say the fourth thing is, let somebody else be the bad guy, because you have to live with these people. You don't want to, you don't want to have your house egged or, what have you. Not that management companies are the bad guys. I'm not saying that we're bad in any way, but at least you're paying for somebody to essentially take the bullets for you. That way you're not having to deal with them, knocking on your door at, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes perfect sense. So if I'm in a situation, I'm on an HOA board and we're like, hey, we need a management company. We're self-managed and we need a management company. Or maybe we have a management company now, we just don't feel like we're getting what we're looking for out of them. What are the things, when I'm starting to interview management companies, what are the things I need to be asking, the things that I need to be looking for?
Communication. How is your communication with not only board members but homeowners? What is your timing like, so to speak? Because that is one of the common things that we hear about. I first want to throw this out there. Not every management company is perfect. We all, just like anybody, any person, we all have our fair share of mistakes. But one of the common things that we hear about is, communication with board members and homeowners. How is the manager with the board members? Are they responsive? Are they timely? Can they, are they reaching out to vendors like they should for certain situations? That's one thing that you should look at. I know for my management company, so to speak, we have reports that we run for our boards every month. Hey, we responded in this amount of time to every phone call ticket. That not only is that great transparency of our internal operations, but that shows you we're communicating in a timely manner. And every time I hear complaints, it's always about communication. Just that's the biggest thing. Homeowners always want to feel like they're involved, whether they're in a meeting or they're just getting a basic email about a food truck tonight,
Sure.
Things like that. I mean, that's just the key to, at least keeping people on your side, so to speak.
Yeah, having that communication and then being able to provide reports on that. That is incredible. Hey, this is our response time. It takes us 12 hours to respond, or it takes us 5 days to respond. Those are good factors to consider as you're starting to look at a management company. All right, what are the other two?
The other two things, as far as to look into with the management company, so we talked about, communication.
When I'm interviewing, or because I would imagine that there's with any board, right? There's going through this process of interviewing and looking for management. I'm sure they're looking on Google reviews and all this stuff. So. There's got to be some things that are going to stick out that says, hey, these are major factors. Some are going to do some are going to have some specialties, like they're going to deal well with communities that have pools or communities that have tennis courts or whatever. But so you're going to have those specialties, but across the board, the baselines that people should be asking.
Yeah, technology is one that came to mind while you were talking, and I'm talking to somebody that is big into technology himself, and that is something that the world's changing. Everybody's doing things by iPads, phones, and so people want things at their touch, not necessarily going and turning on their computer.
Sure.
That is whether you have a mobile app, that's one thing that, who I work for, we have a mobile app for homeowners. That way they can go on there and submit work orders, submit violation complaints, check their balance. I have seen a huge increase in the amount of stuff that we're able to do for our homeowners, push notifications about email blasts, just stuff like that. It's huge because that's what everybody else is doing. That's what, like your Twitter, ESPN alerts, it's just, the source is there. It's at your disposal, whether it be, you're trying to find the governing documents or, what have you.
Yeah.
Technology is one of the biggest things that people, from what I hear, people look at. What does your software look like? How do you, move the money around? Things like that. How do you track and follow work orders or violations? And so, I think to be a successful company, you really need to have this laid out, and that goes a long way with boards. And they buy that. Most boards, you still have your people that are just kind of black and white paper.
Sure.
That's fine.
No, but that's a very valid point, and this is a learning experience for me because I would have like the communication. I can see that. I think that's a good one. The technology, the asking the question of how do you communicate with the homeowners, like that's big because if you're in a situation where you have to rely on mail to be sent out, if you have the emails that go out and they're kind of complicated to follow, social postings or whatever, but those types of things to be able to easily, I can tell you, because I've seen a lot of it, in certain neighborhoods. Well, the sign at the front's damaged.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who do I talk to about that? Like I want to feel a sense of responsibility to help get this improved.
Yep.
Well, what am I supposed to do? Oh, I've got to go find a poster somewhere to find an email address to find but hey, I can pull up an app, snap a picture, send it in, boom.
Yeah. It's that easy. And that's what we want to do for people because we don't want them to have to search because then they're just going to say, forget about it. I'll just let it sit and wait for somebody else to say something. And so I think, with the way things are going nowadays, I mean, it started back whenever you could deposit a check on your phone. That was really cool. And so we want to make it easy like that. That way you can get your answers or your concern or complaint addressed.
Yep.
And it's just the ease of doing things.
Managing your facility, properties, and projects is hard enough. Trying to find an emailed quote in your overflowing inbox is just one more annoyance, especially if there are multiple versions. We're working hard to make your life easier by providing all the information you need in one place. Now you can request service at a date and time that works for you. And we're making it easier to see quotes and materials needed for specific openings, including photos, so that you can approve everything from the convenience of your phone or computer. Log in to start using it now. Visit customer.locdoc.net.
So I want to jump back to the first thing that you said about you said communication with board members and homeowners, but I classify it as response time because that's really, I guess, more what I heard from it. Response time. What is an adequate response time baseline that I should expect or that I should be asking for from a management company?
In the industry, we always say, 24 to 48 hours is a reasonable time frame. Okay. If you ask me just who I am and how I'm driven, I am like, listen, if it's pertaining to my homeowners, I want them to be addressed as soon as possible, reasonably. Yeah. I'm a little bit of a different, what did Mackenzie say at one time on your podcast? She's a creature of something. Yeah. I'm different in my ways to where I like, when I go home, I don't like, to have all of this, emails built up. I want my clients to be addressed, whether I've done the work or not. It's simple. Just say, hey, we're looking into this. So, but typically 24 to 48 hours, but it depends on the year too, or the time of year. Yeah. And I say that because between May, or I guess you could say Memorial Day to Labor Day, pools, fobs, pool parties, clubhouse rentals, graduation party. So then you're starting to think, okay, well, we might need to extend that window. Sure. And you just, you have to be honest with your board. Say, listen, if your homeowners complain, we just know we've had an influx of, homeowners inquiring, and they understand. As long as, if it's an emergency situation, completely different story. Yeah. But, typically 24 to 48 hours. And that's very reasonable, dependent on the size of the company and the clientele.
Gotcha. So response time, technology, how they manage information, how they get people are notified, how people are notified about things happening or whatever. So what is another thing that a board should be looking for in an HOA company?
What I
HOA
think
management
is
company.
what I think is beneficial is vendor management. Do you have vendors for every situation? And I feel comfortable. I've developed or established a relationship with many vendors, whether it be landscapers, fob company, what have you.
Yeah.
That's a resource for new boards because maybe they've been burned out with the old landscaper, the old pool company. Okay, so what can you do for us? Who do you have? Oh yeah, we've got so and so. I think that's a huge plus for somebody because myself as a manager, not only am I wanting to build a relationship with the board, but I want to build a relationship with my vendors because they do the work for my communities. I want to make sure they're doing a phenomenal job because most of the time it does come back on us because we have to maybe have it addressed again. So I want to make sure I have my vendors in line, so to speak, or or take care of my customers because that's their customer too. So vendor management's huge. How do you communicate with them? What's their response time? So I can honestly say some of my vendors, if I send them an email today, I feel pretty comfortable that depending on the scenario, they can get it done within the next week.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge advantage for somebody just getting a fresh start.
Yeah.
Because we see that new communities will come in. The board's like, you know what, we're gonna we want to start fresh. We got a new management company. Our landscaper's been slacking for a while. Communication's been down, and that's moving on to that. To a new management company, they have those resources for them to venture out.
Gotcha. I like it. Those are three powerful things to look at: response time, technology, and vendor management. Who do they use? What kind of network are they plugged into, and how are they able to utilize that for the betterment of the community? Yeah. So those are three big things. Okay, so you threw around a couple of other words: transparency, liability, guidance. There's some other things like that that a management company should offer. When we talk about conversation, so let's kind of shift the perspective a little bit here and kind of put the mirror on ourselves. As a manager of a community, what are some things that you need to be focused on? What are some of the things that you are focusing on every day to be able to provide a good experience for that board or for that community, rather?
Being proactive, I think, is a good thing to, and what I mean by that, right now we are in what we call budget season. It is the craziest time of year before Christmas comes. And so not only we have to juggle this, but we have to juggle, Christmas in itself, buying presents, this and that. But that's how long the season goes. So right now we are in the mood of working on our budgets, making sure we outline any projects for the next year, and that's where we get into the conversation of being proactive. What kind of preventative maintenance are we needing to look at for next year? Are we having to, seal the parking lot to buy us some time? That is a huge thing, especially for what we're doing right now. And I think every manager needs to, realize that yes, certain things happen in the now, but we've got to look at what's going to be happening in the future. And we have certain tools like, I don't know if you've had a podcast with somebody about reserve studies, but, reserve studies is really a guideline, whether it be a, 15-year or 30-year guideline for, expenses down the road. That's a tool for me to use. That way I'm not just having to think about stuff. It gives me an outline of when the pool needs to be resurfaced. So I think that's something a manager needs to do. And that's what boards need to look into with the managers, how they are foreseeing the future and how can we prepare for it?
Are they constantly chasing their tail? Are they thinking and saying, hey, guys, we're getting ready to start pool season, but let's go ahead and start talking about what's going to happen in the community at Christmas? That's farther in the future instead of just going, oh, by the way, it's November. What are you guys doing around here for Christmas?
Yeah. And one thing, where I work, our executive team, they push, plan your year. Your year. Don't just wait until, the last minute to, do whatever the situation may be.
Yeah.
Line it out. Your meetings, your pool preparation, your anything pertaining to that. So that's just a key of just being ahead of the game.
Yeah, I like it. All right, what are some other things that community managers need to focus on to provide a good experience for that community?
So the type of person that I am, I get along with everybody. You know, I love to sit back, chat, get business done, tell some funny stories, what have you. But that is a part of building a relationship with somebody. And, you know, that is, if you want my honest opinion, that is the biggest thing for a successful manager. And why is that? You know, Jonathan, that's nothing, you know, related to managing the association. Well, yes, it is. Because building a relationship is developing a trust in that bond with somebody, whether it be, you know, a board of 3 or a board of 5 or a board of 7. You know, can you say at the end of the day that you have, you know, a strong bond with your boards? And that's not to say you're going out every weekend getting a glass of wine with them, but you know, you are, you know, just being real with them, like, you know, just be you. And that is the thing. Board members see that, they learn to trust you, and they learn to really respect you and want to rely on you. And I think that's a huge thing. And we've seen so many times, and unfortunately, you know, managers that may get burned out, they just didn't. I think if they would have really worked on developing that type of relationship and that type of bond with somebody, it would have worked out for them. Because I just think that's the biggest thing. And, you know, all of my board members I get along with, we great relationship. You know, we understand the boundaries. You know, at the end of the day, you know, I am hired to help you out, but, you know, we can still have a good time while we're doing it. And that's what I enjoy about this job in itself, is just, you know, getting the business done and just being good with one another.
All right. So being proactive, focusing on relationship building, that's something else that you need to focus on as a community manager. What's another thing that you would say this is really important for me as a community manager to be mindful of as I'm developing these relationships or while I'm servicing these customers? Yeah.
One of the best things to do, you know, when you're managing a property, whether it be a small community with just one monument sign or a community with many amenities, is be on site. Learn your property, know the ins and outs of the property. Because if that board member calls you up and says, "Hey, do you remember what happened on Apple Orchard Street? You know, do you remember that stop sign there? You know, we had it taken down." Well, if you've never been on site, you have zero clue. You know, and if you're a manager that's there all the time, you know the property like the back of your hand. You know, that's efficient, because that's how you, not only when you're communicating with the board members, but if a homeowner starts talking to you about, you know, Sally Sue, who's been doing this for years, you know where Sally Sue lives. You know she's been parking her car in the same spot on the curb for the past 3 months. It just makes it a lot easier when you know your properties. Not saying you know every corner and crevice of the community, but at least have that general knowledge of your streets. You know, some of your main focal points there. Just always be on site, and that's, you know, something I've learned along the way. I think to you know, to be successful in managing, you've got to know the community. That's not just knowing your board members or knowing how often you meet with them. That's knowing, you know, many things. When's your landscapers, or when are they going to be out there? When is your pool company going to be servicing? You know, what's the condition of the playground? Have you seen it recently? You know, that kind of goes back to being proactive. And so being on site, that gives you that opportunity to, you know, be able to do that. So,
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, because you're speaking from a place of familiarity instead of worrying about or trying to figure every conversation is a new conversation at that point, right? Because you're like, yeah, I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm also trying to figure out where in the world you're talking about or what neighbor you're talking about. So having that familiarity, being proactive, building some relationships, and getting on site. Really, I think those are really 3 good tips and good focal points. But the other part of it too is those 3 things are transferable to most any position in any organization, because if you're proactive, thinking ahead, if you're building relationships, you can work through conflict, you can work through anything like that, and then being familiar. You're saying get on site because that's applicable in the property, but it's being familiar with your customers'
needs or wants, rather. Yeah.
I mean, it's very transferable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, you know, those are just 3 things that, you know, have stuck out off the top of my head. And of course, you know, there's many more things to really, you know, that can tie into this. But, you know, from what I see, those are 3 things that we, you know, plug in daily. And, you know, this job, every day is a different, or this industry rather, is a different every day's a different day. That's
Sure.
what I'm trying to say. Different challenges,
Absolutely.
different crazy stories. I mean, we could sit here for hours and talk about it. But that's how you learn, and that's how you keep trucking on. It just makes it fun. It's fun. Most people think I'm crazy because I say this job is fun, but it really is, just because you learn something new every day. It's a different challenge, but you plug those 3 key factors, I think you'll go a long way.
I like to do things in threes. We talk about 3 action items around here at Loc-Doc: is helpful and kind communication, fast response, and solving our customers' problems. That's what if we can focus on those 3 things, then we're going to win as an organization.
Yep.
And it's also 3 is 3 for Dale. All right,
Yeah, that's right. 3 for Dale.
3 for Dale. All right, Jonathan, I appreciate you coming in today. This has been very informative. I think practical advice for people that are looking for a management company, practical advice for anybody that's in the world, things that they can probably be called to action on, and kind of self-assess.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun, Chad. I appreciate you bringing me on. I think, I hope people get something out of this. It's always something different, and that's a good thing. So don't let anything scare you. I mean, some situations will just steer you to the right direction, and just, it's a lot of fun. But I've had a lot of fun doing this, chatting about it, because I love what I do, and just being able to share that with everybody.
Well, it's cool as a side note, as in kind of closing, because I want to also highlight the company that you work for. But I met you through the Community Association Institute, CAI. We both sit on the council, Piedmont Regional Council, and that I can say that your attitude exposes that you really enjoy what you do, and you enjoy making sure that your communities are taken care of. And that I picked up on that very, very quickly, just in some of the virtual, because we spent all of our time virtual for the last little bit. So
which has been nice, I must say.
Yeah,
it's been a good part of this.
But it was cool to be able to see that, and see somebody that enjoys doing what you do, and you bring a fresh insights on that. So that's very cool. If and this is not an advertisement, but because you're here, right? So if somebody says, "Hey, I like Jonathan, I'd like to work with him and his company," what do they need to do?
I work for Kuester Management Group. We are centrally located out of Fort Mill, but we have a Davidson office as well. So we're throughout the Carolinas for the most part, from the coast in. But that's where I work. I mean, I'd love to chat with you. Just any opportunity is a great opportunity.
Yeah, you guys have a pretty good footprint. It continues to grow.
Oh yeah, I mean the legacy and the the longevity of a lot of clients. Like one of my clients, they've been there for 15 years, and I think that speaks for itself for the company. So yeah, I mean, the Kuesters have been around for many years, especially up in the, I guess the York County, Mecklenburg County area.
Yep.
So they've really put their foot in, and so they take pride in what they do.
Very cool. Rapid fire, 5 randomly selected questions just to get under your skin with unknown point values. You ready?
I'm ready to get high points.
And when I say random, this is very random. I haven't even read the question, so I don't even know what I'm about to ask you.
Okay.
Cool.
Hit me. Yeah.
Number 1, what is something that you thought would be a great idea, but it was actually a terrible idea when you did it?
Oh, Lord. Going tubing with my family. And I'll explain that. My family is a different bunch, and just tubing with them was a fun experience. But at the end of it, just being torn up from the rocks, and it was just painful. And then I'm very fair skinned, and so being out in that sun probably didn't help. Yeah. But yeah, tubing with my family, that's the first thing that popped in my head.
It's like, in principle, this would be absolutely fantastic. And then when it actually happens, it's like, oh boy, I didn't expect all those things.
Yeah, seems fun, but no, just brutal the next day.
My wife, at one point in time, we were up in New York City, and she had the idea that it would be great to stroll through Central Park. And when I say stroll through Central Park, I mean start at the Upper West Side and stroll to the southernmost tip of Central Park. If you're familiar with that area, it is not a stroll; it is a marathon. I don't even know how long it is, but it's big. And we were not the idea was this nice little stroll through Central Park, and then the actual practical application of it was sweating out of breath, carrying a bunch of stuff. So
Yeah, not a.
Yeah.
Sounds good in theory, but
it's like
yeah.
it doesn't look that way on the movies. They're just like
No. Yeah, it looks great, romantic, what have you? Yeah.
pushing a stroller and sweating. Okay, question number 2: how would you describe your sense of humor? Give us an example.
Oh man, I try not to tout myself, so to speak, but I love having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love to joke. I'm a big jokester. That's just who I am. You know, sarcasm would be something that I'm pretty good at, I guess, so to speak, which my wife hates with a passion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love personally, I love my humor because if you can make yourself laugh, then,
Yeah.
I guess you would find yourself pretty funny.
I mean,
So,
sarcasm is a great communication. Like, it's
Not
it's
with
love
lies.
language.
Well, to an extent. Sometimes it's like, all right, you're taking the trash out and sleeping on the couch. So, yeah, no, it has its
It has its place, but sometimes it just doesn't land.
exactly.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
Don't know anything about that. Who's your favorite comedian? That's not part of the question. This is an add-on to the question.
I love Bill Engvall. He is
Okay.
a blue collar comedian. He never seen him live in person. I've seen his cohorts, Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy. But Bill Engvall, he tells a great story. He's not one of those one-line puncher, or one-line punch comedians. His story has a meaning, but it's like getting to the end of the story, you're laughing all the way through. So, that's certainly not a career could be in, but that I love listening to his stuff. I think he's great.
Have you seen Nate Bargatze, if that's how you pronounce his name? You love sarcasm. He would be he's hilarious.
Really?
Okay. Let's see here. Question number 3. What recent situation was nearly a disaster, but you were able to prevent it?
Well, so just off the top of my head, so our youngest daughter was born almost 7 months ago.
Okay.
Here's what was a disaster about it. So when we went to the hospital, when my wife went in, she wasn't able to eat food. She had to make sure whatever. I felt bad for her, so I'm like, well, gosh, I can't eat a cheeseburger or anything around her. Like that would make me feel bad, especially if I couldn't eat and somebody else was eating in front of me. Long story short, we get to the day, January 21st, that morning, before my daughter was born, I started, here's the disaster part. I started getting like lightheaded. I wasn't eating like I should have been. Yeah. Because it goes back to I felt bad. Well, right before she was born, I almost passed out. Yeah. Until the part of when I guess the delivering nurse said, she's here. And then I guess I woke right up. I don't know what helped me. I guess I will always credit my daughter, I guess, for essentially bringing me to alert. But that was a disastrous moment. And I guess I caused it in a way, but my family will never let me live it down. My wife, she's always now just.
Well, I will definitely applaud you for holding steady on that and not eating. So both of our children, my wife was in the hospital in labor for, I don't know, it was 26, 27 hours. It was an extensive period of time. And I did not do the same thing. I had all of my meals in the room. So anyways.
Yeah, I could not do that. I just felt bad. I'm like, she's laying here in pain, ready to have this baby. Yeah. We were, but
I was like, I'm going to go down the street and get coffee. So I'll be back. Yeah. So you're a much better man. Okay. I probably shouldn't have told that story actually. Let's see. Question number 4. What is the most amount of money that you've ever found, and what was the situation?
I don't know if I should really say it. I found $100 in 20s one time. Yep. I was a teenager working at a retail joint. Okay. And it was right outside of the store. I didn't see anybody. I'm not gonna. Yeah. If I saw it, I would give it back to them. But I found $100 sitting out. I was probably 16, 17 years old at the time, making $7.25 an hour, so $100 was like, yeah. I'm driving a Mustang, so my gas is going out the window. Yeah. But that was, I thought that was pretty cool. That's a lot of money for somebody to find.
That's a good amount of money to find. Very cool. All right, last question, number 5. What's the most recent interesting conversation that you've had?
Chad, I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that question. Interesting conversation. I think I don't know. I really don't know. I can't think. I mean, I have conversations every day with everybody. When you say interesting, I don't know if you're, conversation I had this morning.
All right.
I had we'll just say after I left work yesterday, we had a disgruntled homeowner show up to the office. And
coming to hunt you down.
Yeah, because they owed the association money,
Yeah.
and most people don't like getting letters of some sort. And so this morning, our HR rep and one of my community manager coworkers was telling me just about it, how the lady, and this is why it was so interesting, because how I guess disgruntled she was. She literally blocked our driveway entrance of our office, so that way nobody could come, so she could talk to somebody. And so to me, that's interesting, because you really just hope people are not kind of out there, so to speak, to do something like that. I thought that was very interesting. That was something we had this morning. Thankfully I didn't really have to deal with it in person. But just hearing about it, it's funny after the fact. But that was a pretty interesting situation and conversation I had, just because it was kind of out of left field.
Didn't expect that one.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. Well, you passed 5 questions, so congratulations. We'll give you a score of 823.
823.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us today. It was an absolute blast. Yeah, that's a mouthful to say. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss another episode. We've got some really good stuff coming up for you on the Coffee Break Podcast. So make sure you're subscribed by visiting Loc-Doc.net/podcast. Make sure you follow and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook pages, because there's a video version as well if you didn't know it. So check that out also. Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you next week right here on the Coffee Break Podcast.